Following her father's death, a young deaf-mute girl, Dot, comes to live with her godparents, Paul and Olivia Deere. Paul is a well-known architect, while his wife Olivia, with drug addictions, is an interior decorator. They have a beautiful daughter, Nina, who has difficulty accepting that she now has to live with a freak, Dot. They attend the same school, and Nina is friends with a young girl named Michelle. During lunch, a boy, Connor, who plays basketball, is one of the most sought-after boys in the school, walks past them with his food, and Michelle comments that she wants to get Connor by all means. She even calls the boy out and tries to flirt with him. They notice Dot looking at them, but since they know she can't hear or talk, Nina screams at her to ask her what she is looking at. And one of the school staff, Janice, comes to sit beside Dot, but Dot walks away and goes to hide in the toilet. After school ends and Nina is about to go home, she can't find Dot, and she eventually sees the girl in the toilet. She drags her out to meet Michelle, and they return home. They meet Olivia preparing dinner, and Olivia tries to convince Nina to accept Dot, but Nina insists they could have just removed Dot from being their goddaughter, so she won't have to live with them and inconvenience her. Olivia asks Dot to help her with the meal, while she insists Michelle can't have dinner with them that evening. On the other hand, Paul goes to the pharmacy to buy Olivia's drug prescription. He meets Janice, who introduces herself as one of the school staff. She tells him she feels Dot is depressed, and Paul informs her that it is normal for Dot to be depressed because she had just lost her father, who was the whole world to her, and she had lost her mother to cancer since she was 7. The attendant gives him the drug, and Janice sees he had to come to get some drugs. She asks him what the drug is for, and he says they are just antibiotics. Paul returns home with the drugs, and first thing Nina welcomes him with is why they have accepted Dot. He tells her they should all go to sign language class so they can learn to communicate with Dot better, and he goes to meet Olivia, who is passed out. He carries her to the room and gives her drug to her before joining the girl to the table. While he is away, Nina takes a piece of the drug Paul had kept on the dinner table. She advises Dot to take it with her, but Dot refuses, and she gets furious. After dinner, Nina receives a call from Michelle and asks to spend the night at Michelle's place. The following day at school, the students are grouped for a practical class, and Dot is coincidentally grouped with Connor. She does most of the practicals herself, and during lunch, Michelle complains that she doesn't know why Connor got Dot. She recalls that Nina claims she is still a virgin and advises her to break her virginity that year by finding any guy in the school. Later that day, Dot finds the music room open. She goes there and presses the piano. Connor sees her there and watches her a little before leaving. That evening at home, Paul arrives and kisses Nina, who tells him one of her results, and they both drag themselves into the room. Dot notices one of the lights open. She is unbothered as she carries her father's aches and touches them as she recalls how he died. He had told her he wanted to get to a restaurant when she asked to use the bathroom, so he told her to meet her there, and when she got there she saw several people. She feels she could have saved him if she had followed him immediately. She goes to wash her face and she hears Paul and Nina talking. She peeps through the door and sees them having intercourse. She silently returns to her room without them knowing. The following night, Nina asks to spend the night with Michelle, but Paul refuses. She convinces Olivia, who allows her to go, and she leaves after touching Paul's legs. Paul gets angry at Olivia, and after Paul walks out, Dot meets with Olivia and they talk about her mother. Olivia shows her a picture of herself and Dot's mother in school and says she is sometimes jealous that Dot's mom died without growing old. Later, Dot asks to go to the movies with Olivia, but Paul asks to take her instead. She meets Nina and her friends there. That night, as she returns to her room, Paul tries to touch her, but he controls himself and leaves. The following day, when Nina returns, she tiptoes inside the house and hears Dot playing the piano. She hears Dot curse as one of the strings breaks, and she walks away and walks back inside, knowing that Dot can speak. The following day, she sits beside Dot at lunch, and she says she feels she's glad to meet Dot because she's glad to know someone whose life sucks more than hers. She claims she can talk to Dot about all she feels because Dot can't hear, and she tells Dot that she wants to kill her father. She tells Dot all that happens between herself and her father and how her father likes it when she touches his nipples. She tells Dot that she likes her father when they have intercourse, and she also hates him during the activity. But she also hates him when he stops her from meeting her friends. She says Michelle's father has a gun, and she would take it and shoot her father when her mother is sleeping. She takes her food and walks away while Dot goes to the music room. She notices Connor looking at her, so she stops and carries her bag. Connor comes to meet her, and he just wants to ask about when they can draft the practical lab work, but she gives him the draft she has done and walks out. That evening during dinner, they hear a knock, and Nina assumes it's Michelle, only to find out it is Connor. She assumes he is there for Michelle, but he tells her he is there for Dot. He enters and tells Paul and Olivia that he is Dot's biological lab partner, and they are going to go over the practical again that evening at the library, so Paul allows him to take Olivia. Michelle arrives and she is angry that Paul could let Dot go with Connor while he stopped her from making friends. Connor takes Dot to a restaurant where he tells her about his attention deficit disorder and how he wants to see her naked because of how quiet she is. Paul also insists Nina sends Michelle home, and they spend the night together. When Dot arrives from her date with Connor, she goes to Nina's room and she overhears how Nina keeps asking her father if she is fat and how Paul claims he has a gift for her and wants to make out with her again. She takes a statue and breaks it to call their attention, and Nina comes out to help her clean up. The next day, Nina tells Dot that she wants to kill her father that evening, and she is glad Dot can't hear her because she would be an accomplice if she could hear. That evening, Dot attends the basketball and meets with Connor after the game, although they lost. After he talks to her, she removes her clothes and they start making out. Meanwhile, at home, Olivia claims Connor could be a good boyfriend for Nina, although Paul refuses. Olivia goes to bed and Paul waits for Nina and gives her a gift when she returns. He hugs her and touches her while she asks him to come to her room. He returns to his room, and although he doesn't know Olivia is awake, and she cries as she watches him go. Although Nina plans to kill Paul, she finds it difficult, and she just tells him she's pregnant, and she needs $1,000 to abort. When Connor finishes his intercourse with Dot, she stands up and leaves. She returns home and overhears the conversation about pregnancy between Nina and Paul. She has when Paul comes out and returns to her room later. Nina comes to meet her in tears, saying she is no longer as courageous as she should be. At school the next day, Connor invites Dot to a dance which she refuses. Michelle overhears the conversation and gets angry, but Nina reminds her she is a whore. While preparing for the dance, Nina tells Dot she wants to run away that night. Paul also sees a tampon in Nina's purse and realizes she's lying. He goes to confront her, and Dot plays the piano. He starts hitting her and attempts to rape her, so Dot takes the piano strings, takes it to her room, and she strangles Paul to death. While Nina cries about her father's death, Olivia comes out and she is undisturbed about her husband's death. Instead, she says it's a miracle Dot can hear. Michelle arrives to take them to the dance, and they come out holding a bag. During the dance, Connor asks to dance with Dot. As she dances with him, she walks out and he follows her. He calls her name and she turns, which makes him realize she can hear. He gets angry that she deceived him and listens to all he has to say, and he walks out. The girls go to bury their bloody clothes in the bag, and while they do so, Nina asks Dot why she pretended not to hear. She says it was because after her mother's death, she wanted to be invisible to others and only be visible to her father. That's why it was their little secret. They return home and find the police in their house. Olivia tells Nina she called Paul because he got angry at her and was throwing things. She apologizes to Nina and says she is sorry she allowed Paul to hurt her. The police take her away. The following morning, Dot talks about the silence after the storm. It is a silent morning for the girls as Nina goes to play the piano. Dot joins her, and the girls play the piano together.